I'm Kelly Saraceno at Longwood Gardens with botanical expert and Longwood educator Jeff Jabko to discuss the diversity of plants and their adaptations. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Kelly. With plants growing on every continent, it seems like there's a plant suited for just about every type of condition. We are currently standing in the Silver Garden, which was designed to emulate the desert Southwest and features a wide range of plants adapted to arid, sunny conditions that all have a silver hue to them.
Jeff, many think of green cacti and brown grasses when picturing a desert. Why do many of the plants here have that silvery coating?
Many of the plants in this garden, like the silver teaspoons, Kalanchoe bracteata, have foliage that appears to be silver, when in fact many of them have adapted to the sunny conditions and limited humidity by having a layer of protection encasing their foliage. Let's take a closer look at a leaf to get a better understanding of its unique adaptation. The bluish-green to silver coloration of many of these plants is actually the reflection of a waxy bloom or thickened cuticle. By simply wetting the leaf surface, I can wipe some of this cuticle covering off the leaf to see its green appearance underneath. The extra layer prevents these plants from losing water during the day.
Do they still photosynthesize in daylight?
Yes, the plant still photosynthesizes. However, they have a different cycle than most other plants that have a C3 or C4 cycle and use CAM, or crassulacean acid metabolism. All of that sounds really technical, but in short, they collect sunlight during the day and process it during the night. This allows many of these plants to open their pores for gas exchange and intake carbon dioxide at night when the temperatures are not as high.
With very little rainfall in the desert, how do these plants manage to survive?
Another adaptation to living in the desert is the ability to store water in plant leaves and stems. These plants are referred to as being succulent, like the blue agave. Inside each of its leaves, it has the ability to hold moisture and swell and contract based on the water demand of the plant and the environmental conditions. The blue agave is also a very important food crop too, as it can be used for a sweetener like syrup, but even can be processed into mezcal and tequila.
What are some of the plants that have the succulent stems?
Behind the agave, there are the Mexican fence post cactus, Pachycereus marginatus, Alouadia, which is Alouadia ascendens, and the Pachypodium lemerii, that all have the ability to store water in their stems. The Pachypodium is a really interesting plant that is in the Apocynaceae, or dogbane family. It holds water in its trunk or stem, which allows it to survive the periodic droughts of its native Madagascar. There, they can grow to be large trees, like the one behind me, but you could also grow them as houseplants where they are trained to have a large caulis or swollen base, and that's done by hobby growers and horticulturists. You may also notice the large spines, which are an adaptation that not only stops herbivory, but can aid in water management for a wide range of different species.
Now that we've discussed some interesting plants adapted to periods of drought and lack of water, let's head over to another location to see what type of plants thrive in a climate where water is much more plentiful. We're at the base of the palm house, and you can really feel the difference in humidity from the Silver Garden.
The increase in humidity and the abundance of water can foster lush tropical settings with plants like coffee arabica, and the schefflera around us. But it's hard to have that jungle feel without the towering trunks of these palms.
Tell me more about these palm trees.
One of the first things you may notice when you see a palm tree is their long arching foliage. These are not actually leaves, but are fronds similar to a fern. And it may surprise you to know this, but all palms, from the triangle palm, Dipsis decarii, to the bright red lipstick palm, Certostachys renda, are monocots.
Where do palm trees naturally grow?
There are over 2,500 species of palms throughout the globe, and while the majority of them grow best in USDA hardiness zones 8 to 11, there are actually some that are hardy much farther north. They typically thrive in moist, hot climates. As a result of the abundance of water, they have a reduced spread of roots when compared to trees in a temperate environment like oaks, quercus, or maples, acer. Palms can be a source of food, building, and growing materials, and provide habitat for a range of epiphytic plants like the philodendron and a wide range of orchids.
Orchids are one of my favorite families of plants. Let's head over there next. The Orchid House is one of my favorite places to visit at Longwood. With 200 to 300 specimens on display every day of the year, there's always a wide range of colors and blooms to excite visitors.
The orchid family, Orchidaceae, is arguably the largest family of plants in the world, with specimens covering 6 continents, including plants that grow as terrestrials, lithophytes, and epiphytes.
You mentioned that epiphytes grow on trees, but what are lithophytes?
Lithophytes are plants that can grow on rock surfaces or in the crevices of rocks. The beautiful slipper orchid, or Paphiopedilum, represents a genus that includes species that can be found growing in small pockets of organic matter in the crevices of rocks.
I've noticed that some of the plants in here are vining. Are they also orchids?
Yes, the one we were looking at is the vanilla orchid. And vanilla is what we use for flavoring and baking and cooking. And it is an orchid species that typically grows as a vine rather than a more compact type of plant.
With so many different growing habits, what makes an orchid an orchid?
It's really the structure of the flower that makes an orchid representative of that group. The flower is made up of several different parts. It's the sepals to the back, and they are modified to be very showy, like the parts of a flower. And then it's the 3 petals that are to the front of that. And the lower petal is modified to look like a lip, or a lower part, and it's called a labellum. And then the sexual parts are in the middle of that, and we have the male and female parts fused onto one structure. So it's all of those things that make that flower unique and really make the group of orchids.
It's amazing to think that the plant kingdom is so diverse, with adaptations to survive in some of the harshest conditions, from deserts and rock surfaces to lush rainforests where plants can grow in trees. I've learned a lot from you today, Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for broadening your world by learning in ours.